Good point. Say,
Hi.
hi. Hello, everyone. Okay. Hello. Hello. Hi.
Professor, do you have an assistant today?
Yes, I have an assistant today. That's for a moment. Yes, I do. Thank you for asking. And he's. It's
My name is Felix, and I'm 6.
That is true. Well said. Yes. Do you want to ask them your question, or should I?
You do it, Dad.
All right. So the question: we're gonna have a real class today. Don't be fooled. And yes, he knows more physics than most 60 than I do. Right. But his question, I'm here.
Your name is Poopy Pants.
And here we go. Yes, it's gonna work. This is definitely gonna work. Oh wait, there's more people coming. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. Okay.
Mr. Dad.
Oh, Mr. Yes. Okay. My question. Am I asking them the question, or are you asking them the question? Wait.
You are.
Okay. The question is, and you don't. Oh, hi. Oh, someone just said hi, Felix. Someone just wrote hi. You see?
Hi.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And someone heard that you called me. Okay. Now we're gonna move this on. Yes.
Yay! Someone heard that I called you Poopy Pants.
All right. This is.
And everyone heard it just now.
It's not called Poopy Pants. It's called tenure. No. Okay. Wait. Listen, okay. Okay. All right. Wait, so we're gonna ask them this question, and then we're gonna actually get on to serious class, and you're gonna get into serious YouTube, right?
I'm gonna do that thing if they even can do it.
All right. So here's the question. Well, I don't know about that, but he does know more than a lot of. I don't know about. Well, we'll see by the end of the class. He does know more than some people. Okay.
I know more than you do. That's for sure.
Yes, it is for sure. Yes, it is. So here, what he's definitely, I will say, this 6-year-old named Felix is definitely better at games than I am. There's no question about that, and I'm learning more about games from him.
And my name is Fred.
And it's right.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Right, I just like jokes.
And you are good at jokes. So here is the question. If anybody out there, and you don't have to answer now, but you can private chat me or whatever. If anybody out there, sorry, now there's two. How'd that happen, dude? All right. If anybody, we're going to start serious.
Does anyone have a Mewtwo and Let's Go Pikachu?
Yes, that is the question. Right. If anybody plays Let's Go Pokemon and happens
to happy to trade my Moltres,
he's got major trades to offer. Right. I just want to know, you could tell me later on if anybody has a Mewtwo that they might consider trading. And obviously, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then neither did I 5 months ago. I mean, of course, but if you have a Mewtwo in Pokemon Let's Go, we already have one in Sword for those people who are paying. But if you have one in Let's Go, we could make major trade offers. So I can
make it evolve it, and then I can be the strongest trainer ever.
Right. So we've got major trades to offer. If you want, yeah, he does.
What?
Someone wrote, yeah, he does, meaning that you probably know more than I do. Yes. And it said, yes, he does. And did
you know that in Let's Go Pikachu, I'm up to the Pokemon League?
Yes, you are. No, you're rocking.
I beat every single G.
And you finished all the gyms.
And now I demolitai. Now I eliminated Giovanni.
Yes, you did eliminate Giovanni. All right. So I put the question to them. They know the question. If any of them thinks about it or they're on, when they remember, if anybody remembers and thinks, oh, yes, I have a Mewtwo, they will let me know. And then I'll let you know. We'll make a trade or something. Okay.
And my name is Fred.
And am I allowed to give them extra credit for doing it? No, I'm not allowed to. That's outrageous. That would be completely inappropriate.
What?
I can't give someone a good grade just for making a trade with you in Pokemon.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's ethical.
If everyone,
don't step on
an A+.
If I give everyone an A+, that I could do, except for only one problem. Do you know what, John Jay? They only give A's. They don't give A+. I don't know why. It means people can be.
Just break the laws and do A+.
But it's a college of criminal justice. It's all about laws. If I break the law. Okay, anyway, yes. Okay, please don't step on that. All right, so they know. So now I'm going to teach my class and you're going to watch Ryan's World or whatever. Okay, thank you. Okay. Sorry for, okay. Oh, and they say, nice to meet you, Felix / Fred. That's funny. They're calling you Felix and Fred. So they clearly understand what you're saying.
Thank you.
And they like your A+ idea. They like your A+. And so do I. Believe me, okay. But now we got to do our thing. Yes.
No.
All right.
And my name is Stupid McPoop.
Yes, right.
No, that's my dad's name.
Right. I'm sometimes.
And who wants to watch Ryan's World?
Okay. All right. Now I'm sure they would rather watch Ryan's World than do physics, and so would I. But now, no. But now you got to do your thing. Otherwise, I can do this. Okay. So you want to.
Screw math.
What? Whoa, that's dirty. That's dirty in this house. Okay, but now I do have to do my thing. That is awesome. Cool.
Then I get to do full volume.
No, you don't. in another room. Okay. Yeah, he is. Roasted, yes, roasted.
For the last time, does anyone have a Mewtwo that I could trade for
They
a
got them.
Moltres?
Believe me, they heard the question. Believe me, they heard your question more than they hear any of my questions. Okay. Okay. Oh my God.
Be quiet.
Okay. Okay. Where are we? Okay. Actually, okay, I'm going to turn it back. But you guys are very cool to roll with this, and you're very cool, all of you too. We're getting it rolling now, and I know it's a long class and blah blah blah. One thing is you, yeah. Now, all right, fair enough, Skyla. One thing. And there's people in the waiting room. I'm sorry. Hold on. They're probably waiting for a million years. 1 second. Or are they? Wait, are there people in the waiting? Oh, that's. Oh, okay, good. I'll take whatever it takes to keep us all afloat. I mean, good. If you laugh for 5 minutes, really, it's worth it. I know it. I mean, anything we can all do to get through this Zoom school and COVID and all that. I'm glad of it. And I'm laughing too. And obviously, I wouldn't let this happen if I. Anyway, but what was I going? Oh, but you guys. The good news is we never see each other anymore. I mean, I feel like it's like we see each other once every 2 weeks or something. But you guys, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, from last check, which was a couple hours ago, you guys are very on top of this class so far. Like, unless I'm mistaken, that the first homework I got back. Am I confused? I think almost all of you have done that first homework and gotten it back, even though we have not finished going over it yet. And I'm aware of that. We still have more things to say about it. A lot more things actually. But you guys are where you're supposed to be with it, and that's the good news. Same thing with those game assignments. Hopefully they're becoming more and more clear to you. We'll keep talking about them, but 2 more were posted for next week. One's
Professor, there's someone in the waiting room.
sorry. Oh, thank you. Okay. Wait, she is? I thought there was someone, but then I couldn't. Wait a minute. There might be. Oh, you're absolutely. Oh, God. Sorry. You're right. Thank you. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. This is good. Thank you guys. All right. So this is some bookkeeping things. One, I'm sorry about the 2 people that were just in the waiting room. I don't even know if they're in yet. Wait. Like Angel and sorry to keep you guys waiting. I totally actually thought I saw you there, and anyway, sorry to keep you waiting, but I'm glad you're here now. Oh yeah, I do have if you weren't here for the last 5 minutes, then there's a question I have to repeat to you in a couple minutes about Pokemon, but I'll hold that for a second. But right. But I've got a couple of comments in the chat about homework here. Let me be clear. We are still, when I'm complimenting you guys, and it has to be a tiny bit lower, just a tiny bit. My compliments are not meant as passive aggressive. They're not meant as mixed messages. Like, I'm complimenting the fact that I believe the overwhelming number of you did the first homework and got it back, and it looked good and all that. That is not a clever way of saying that if you didn't do the homework yet, you're in trouble. It's very much not saying that. For 1,000 reasons, if you have not turned, even if you did that homework, but you didn't hit the turn it in button, because that can get confusing and stuff, I'm still very much taking it, very much. You guys will know once I'm about to start being ready to actually take off points for lateness or something like that. Like, at a certain point that may become true, but it doesn't just automatically become true. My primary interest is in getting work from you guys, just like every step of, whatever work you do. I just want to see it and give you credit for it. And I want you to do work in sequence. Like, don't try to do homework number 2 before you do homework 1, because it'll just cause stress and confusion. But just as long as you're always doing the next thing, and as long as you're still doing it while we're still talking about it, we haven't finished talking about it, then it's okay. So basically, any of you who did the homework and got it back, I know that you've already done it and got it back, and that's great. You're totally on top of things. If you haven't turned in the homework yet, there's not penalty or anything like that. and especially if we talk about some of it and that helps you do some of it, it's all fine. Please, like I'll let you know when it's not fine. Everything I'm saying applies to homework. It doesn't apply to exams. When it does come time for exam, there's not as much flexibility on turning it in late for 1,000 reasons. But with homework, yeah, we're when this class is over, you could still turn in class homework number 1, and it is totally fine. And those of you who killed yourself to get in by last week, don't worry about being unfairly, like, don't worry that someone else is getting away with something, because they're not. Because I still know that you did your homework earlier, and B, if everybody could get an A+ in this class, as far as I was concerned, like I wouldn't. There's no limit to how many A. Right, my son wants me. I should stop talking. I think you guys get the point. Don't worry about lateness. Just do the homework. Worry about it once I say. If that makes any sense. Therefore, therefore, I want to get to it. Yeah. No. I totally understand that. What Soha's putting in the thing. Okay, let me add one thing to this too, because I'm loving Google Classroom more and more. The more I do it for a reason, because I think it is better than Blackboard. But of course, it's something to get used to, and I'm just getting used to certain features now. But I'll say there's one feature about it that I've been testing as a student, like pretending to be a student. So I want to say this to all of you: when you do the homework, or when you do any, wait, hold on. What if I move? I can move to your room. Hold on a second, because this is my job. When you do the homework or exams for that, well, let me just say the homework for the moment. When you do the homework, on the one hand, I'm insisting, in fact, that you always give yourself plenty of space and time to work. Like I've been saying for years, annoyingly to people, even though I give you a sheet with questions on it, don't try to answer on that sheet, because you'll end up cramming all your work into these margins and these little spaces, and you can't wait, this is my job. And you can't think, I can't think, you can't think properly, at least the way physics needs you to think, if you're trying to cram things into small spaces and small times. Also, it's hard to make it legible, and it's hard on me to read it. So on the one hand, this is important, I've been saying for years, please, here's our questions, but then treat them as like exam booklets, like do your work as though we're in a blue booklet, do your work on a totally separate thing and hand it in. That's what I always say. And I'm continuing to say that, but that's for that reason, that I want you to have plenty of room to do your work and present your work. What I now realize with Google Classroom, I'm modifying, where I'm going with this is a slight modification. Hold on, I'm just going to move a little bit. I realize that is actually making things difficult in Google Classroom for some people. Hold on. I'm just going down. And I know this is really boring to talk about, really boring, I know, but hopefully it'll help people. And I'm saying this also because I think you guys are on top of things so far, and it's hard to be on top of things in a class this long and this discontinuous. So to keep us all on top and to keep me looking at your work as much as you deserve me to look at it, which is a lot, I'm saying on the one hand, write out homework on separate blank sheets of paper, because you need room. On the other hand, I'm saying, as someone who is now trying to do my own homework on Google, okay. As someone who's I'm trying to do your homework on Google Classroom, literally to see how bad it feels and stuff like that. And I'm trying to literally do what I think is ideal, which is, and I recommend this to you if it's possible. Everybody has different devices and all that. But okay, love you. But what I do is I will ask Dan, I will tell you, I will. I take out, again, I know this is so boring, but it's like, how to do work is like, especially physics is different from biology or chemistry. So what I do is I happen to have, like a tablet thing, a non-iPad tablet thing that I happen to like, and happens to have a stylus and stuff. And so what I do is I take out my device that has a stylus, and I open up Google Classroom, and I open up the assignment, and there's the assignment there. And of course, like you, I want as little drama as possible. Like I want to be able to just do my assignment, like right there, like open up Google Classroom, do my crap, and submit it right there without getting involved in other documents or other devices or anything, right? And And what I now realize, and again, I know this is boring, but we're in a new environment now with Zoom and all this. So this is just sort of coming up for the first time now. What I've noticed is if I sit there and try to be like you and try to do my own homework on, particularly on like a tablet device, it's totally annoying. I see that it is totally annoying because I want to have the questions in front of me while I'm answering, or if I'm you, right, I need to see the question while I'm answering. But Yaverbaum is saying don't write on top of the questions. So then I have to start a whole new document according to Yaverbaum. And that means even on a tablet or something that's supposed to simplify things, I have to keep flipping back and forth between two documents, and then make sure to upload the correct one or something. And it's totally annoying. And like, and you keep flipping back and forth, and and eventually you get to the point where you really just want to copy those questions down because it's so impossible to remember all the facts of the questions as you keep turning back. Like I really do sympathize with how annoying that is. And that's for me. I even know my own questions and I find it super annoying going back and forth. So then I just try to jot down basically what the question means. And that's what I want to encourage you to do. But that's still annoying. So here's the one, even though this is all boring, one solution, one thing I want to propose, like a compromise, like I never used to say this before, but I think it makes sense in the context of Google Classroom and Zoom and all that, is if you are one of those people who knows what I'm talking about, like who has a device out and who has my questions. I know we've only done this once, but you have, or Walters's questions. If you're sitting there and you have our questions and you want, and you would be a lot easier for you to just like, and you know how to directly write on top of the questions or type right on top of the questions, and that's what you want to do, but I'm saying I don't want you to do that, then here's what you can do instead is when you open up the document that has my questions in it or Joe's questions or whatever, open up that document. If you already had the technology, if you know how to write directly on it, but I'm telling you not to do that, then here's what you do. Just add blank pages to the document, like right after the first page. So the first page is my questions, then add a blank page or two as page number 2 and page number 3, and then do all your work out on those blank pages. In other words, then you still will kind of have to flip back and forth between pages, kind of, but at least it's all within one document. You won't have to flip around the whole universe, and I'll totally accept that too. So you're not squeezing your work onto a page, but yes, you've got all the questions right there in your work. And then too, if you do that, then you don't have to spend as much time like telling me what the question is because it'll be right there. Could I just get any hint? Does that make any sense what I'm saying? I mean, I know, yeah, okay, that's a yes from Skyla. I'll take that. Oh, and Veronica, thank you. Okay, and Crystal. All right, that good. So please, if that helps, please feel free to do that. If none of that made any sense, then don't worry about it, I guess. But yes, and all of that is to say, if there's still a homework that you haven't turned in or anything, it is definitely not too late. Not at all. Not for the regular homework 1, and certainly not for any of those game things, which we're still getting used to. Not too late. All deadlines that I put are to try to organize for you, to try to just keep things in sequence. But keep making deadlines is hard for me too, believe me. So it's not, so don't give up on any of this stuff because you think it's too late. I will let you know when too late comes. Okay, that's that. All right, we're looking at, that's all that. Sorry, chat. Okay, cool. Okay. So we still haven't finished going over that first homework, but it was a million years ago. So maybe before we get too deep, can I ask you, have the very last, most previous, recent, tell me about the last lab you did with Walters, like last when, or wait, or do I already know about that one? Wait a second. Yeah, I guess just to make sure we're on the same page, could someone motion 2? Okay, thank you.
It was about oscillation.
Okay, cool. And thank you. And did you actually, so were there actual springs? I mean, I know it was a simulation. I mean, I know it was on your computer, not in reality, but it was about springs then, right? Oh, okay. I'm looking. Oh, sorry. Oh, great. Okay. Yes. Okay. Now I remember. Oh, good. So your motion. Great. Okay. So is this fair? Thank you. That's, now I have to run to get my size. But then is this fair? Pardon me. Sorry, one last interruption. But okay, so is this was it something like, maybe you should tell me, but or wait, you had three different motions and you had to establish whether they were true or false. And you ended up saying that two of them were true and one was false, or what, or what?
One of them was false or no, I'm sorry. Two of them were false and one of them was true.
Okay, great. Two of them were false, one of them was true. So was the true one, I'm thinking whether I should was the true one something like this? Is that one of them, or maybe you should just tell me. I mean, I don't know why I'm guessing, but is that?
I believe the true one was that A is proportional to the square root of 1 over K.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's interesting. Does anybody? Oh, and then
That was the answer that we got for it.
That's the answer. Oh,
It's in the chat what we had to prove the claims.
Okay, let me look at this. Okay, this is very helpful. Oh, I see. Great. By the way, and when I ask these, I'm asking really for my reasons, but this definitely shows you guys are definitely paying attention to know these answers like this is good. Okay. Oh. Okay. Right. Number one, disproven. Right. Okay. Number two. Huh. Okay. Oh yes, please do. Thank you. Oh, great. Okay, let me say this. We're gonna go a little slowly on this because this is worth talking about and especially if it was all last week and stuff. This is worth talking about. But Skyla's quite yes, Skyla, please do share the screen. I want, but Jesse's question, like, wait, they were all disproven. I definitely want to dwell on a number of these questions and make sure we're all together. But yes, oh wow, you guys are definitely, these are really thoughtful answers. I could think about this all day. Yes, if Skylar, though, if you want to share the screen, that'd be great. And if I have to do a setting to let you, hold on a second.
It just says I can't share it while someone else is sharing.
Oh. Okay, try. Yeah, you're right. I just hit a set. Try one more time. I just want to see what happens if you try it now. And if it doesn't, I'll do another.
Yeah, it works now.
Oh, it does. Okay. Whoa, this is the first time. Huh. But do you see the screen that you just shared? I better get mine off. I actually don't. All right, hold on a second. Sorry.
I don't see Skyla's screen either.
Yeah. Okay. So all right, let me get rid of mine then. But it's all fascinating. Okay. So there's Skylar's screen. Wow. Very helpful. Very cool. All right. Let me see if I can. And again, oh, nice. And she's like scrolling. This is so dynamic. This is so 21st century, yo. This is like all that I dreamed physics teaching would be one day. No, I never dreamed physics teaching would be this, but very cool though. Okay, so I'm trying to look at her screen, and this will be posted and all of that. Wow. Okay. Oh, and cool. And this is his sheet. Okay, very nice. And one of the reasons, and I will tell you, this is for good or for bad, it's worth us talking about these kind of things because, like, I'm not trying to pretend that I don't know the physics, right? But I will tell you if it's not, and I'm also not trying to give you the impression that like Joe and I never communicate or I have no idea what's going on in the class or something like that. Like I do, but the truth is we do it slightly differently every semester, and we do try to adapt to where you guys are and stuff. So there are some subtle distinctions in the way that he's writing this for you guys this semester that are very interesting to me. So let's talk. Like, all right, and I like that. Oh, you can even like point around and annotate. Oh, great. Yeah, you're totally on the spot now, Skylar. This is your class now for the rest. Oh no, but actually, in honesty, let me say also, this example, and I'm not trying to single anybody out or be boring or anything, but like, for example, that Skylar just shared the screen, just know that one of those game assignment, like this means that, just as an example, just to be clear, at the end of this class, like when it's time to submit for 50 points, the regular a game turn 5 or turn 4, whatever it is, Skyla is gonna write when it's time for that just regular weekly 50 points. She can totally write down, I participated by sharing a screen with you. I mean, sharing a screen with the class, right? Now, the truth is, I know Skyla also participated other ways. And again, I'm just using her as an example right now. But just to be clear, she participated in other ways as well. That's great. But she also did participate this way, right? So she can, on that assignment that says a game, turn number 3 or 4, whatever it is, the one that's due like a half hour after class tonight, she can take 1 second just to remind me that she did a screen share and submit that for 50 points for her turn number 4. But also, in addition to that, she can and should double dip, so to speak. I just want to make this clear. Like, there was some assignment that I said something like one of the game assignments that's worth 75 points and it's due at the end of the whole semester and it has some cute title, like, cutesy title, like worth 1,000 words, i.e. a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? Whatever that is that I might have just put in the thing today. The reason that that's due at the end is you can do that at any time you do this special form of participating. For example, today, Skyla, because, am I saying her name right? I'm sorry. Wait, is that your name, Scott? Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry. So, like, I just really want to make this clear, again, especially going back to the, can we all have A pluses, please? Like, my secret belief is I do want us all to have A plus. Like, I don't know why John Jay doesn't give A pluses. I can't do anything about that. But do I want us all to have A's? Yes. But I want us all to have A's by following a simple formula that then deserves an A. And it's like a really good system because I think anybody who wants to follow this formula will get an A, but just enough people for some reason won't, that they won't, and then all the A's are legit. So part of that formula is that Skyla is absolutely not cheating. If she scrawls on a piece of paper, I shared a screen, and submit, and maybe even gives me a screenshot of the screen, whatever, and puts that in for 50 points, but also on the very same day, she can put that exact same submission in to the 75 point portal. One of them has a number on it, a game turn 4. The other one doesn't. Like the 50 point one, the 75 point one does not have a number on it, has a special name because it's like a special bonus points thing. She can take the same submission and submit it to both. And it is not cheating. It's actually what I want her to do, or I want any of you to do, because I want you just to be keeping records of like the good things you do. And some things that you do count as good in more than one ways at the same time. All good, all fair. And again, please remember, if it suddenly occurs to you that you did participate 2 weeks ago and you just like didn't understand what you were supposed to do about that, or you think it's too late or something, it's not. Like if you participated 2 weeks ago just by saying hello, remind me of that on a piece of paper, submit it for a game from 2 weeks ago. I know I'm babbling, but I'm excited that there's a screen share here is just really what I'm trying to say. I'm also stalling because I want to look at it now. Okay. Oh, wait. Oh, good question. Wait. In the chat. Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. How many times can you upload something you did to the 75 one? The real answer is as many times as it applies. Like what I want is anytime anybody does that, they should grab the points for it. The only catch about that is I think technically I probably have to put another portal. Like I think for you, the most easy way for you to get the points is that for each time you do it, you need there to be a separate portal. So so the answer is you can do it as many times as you want. Yeah. So for now, say again, let's say no. Who just asked? And by the way, I know I've done this. Is it Rahel?
Rahel.
Sorry, one more time. Sorry.
Rahel.
Oh, okay. Rahel. Okay, thank you. And sorry. So Rahel, her question, which is a great question. What I'm going to say is as many times as you want, but for starters now, let's say today, Rahel submits something in the 75% thing, and it might be the screen share one, or it might be the one. Remember, there's one where you get 75 points just for using your voice, which Rahel just did when she helped me pronounce her name. Like that totally counts. In fact, quite frankly, speaking as someone whose name is Yaverbaum, I think it's a lot harder to use my voice to help someone else pronounce my name than it is for me to use my voice to do physics. Like it's very embarrassing and awkward for me to talk about my own name with someone else. Like, right. So she totally deserves 75 points for that. But she also deserves, what am I saying? So she can totally submit that for 75 points to the speak now or forever hold your chat or whatever that thing is called. She can submit it to that. But then if tomorrow, if next week, if Rahel uses her voice again, but she's already submitted an example for the 75 points, what I would ask Rahel to do this time, like the very next week, she can literally put her new submission, her new example of her voice into that same portal, even though I already gave her 75 points and she already got it back and she already got a 75. She can submit a new document in there now because I've tested this. I'm very happy about this because it will pop up on my side. I want you all to know this, even if you already get a grade on something. This is particularly important on regular real homework. If on regular real homework, which is worth 50 points usually, right? If any of you ever get a grade on your homework that's like 40, that's anything less than 50, but I write a note like for full 50 points, please include question 8 or something. Like if I took off points because you were missing something, or I took off points because I didn't like the way you formatted it or something like that. Almost always, like almost without exception, until it's like right at the end of the semester, if I didn't give you 50 points, then hopefully I told you a way that you would get the 50 points. And then you can and should, this is to everybody, this is on any kind of regular homework, if you or any kind of graded material, if you turn in something and you don't get a perfect grade, I'm telling you right now that I'm perfectly willing to accept, I'm happy to accept an updated, corrected version of that homework, and I will raise your grade, right? And the good news that I didn't know about recently, the good news is that Google Classroom actually does work well enough to make that possible without me having to think, or you have, in other words, even though I already gave you a grade and I think I'm done with you on that assignment and I move on, I'm looking at other things, Google will, if you submit something new and don't take out the old thing, but if you submit a new thing and say, I want another 75 points for this Yaverbaum, or it's like old homework and you're like, no, I did the vector. So now can you please give me all my points back? If you do that, Google Classroom will notify me that there's been a change to your homework and it will ask me to look at it, which is good. And then I'll be able to see what you already turned in. I'll see my comments, I'll see the grade, and I will. So in this case of Rahel's question, right now, if 2 times in a row you deserve 75 points, put them both in the same portal now and alert me. Like say, I already got the 75 points, but here's from next week. And what I'll do in response, I'll take that as indication that I better open up a new portal for everybody because you might not be the only one. And then I'll just move things around. So what I'm trying to say to everybody is, first of all, yes, you can do any of these multiple times. I want you to think they really are Nook miles, if that makes any sense. I mean, again, that's an alienating analogy, but for any of you who like know what Animal Crossing is, these are just Nook miles. These points, they are me asking you to be really cognizant of good things you do and just remember them and just remind me, and then you get points for them. And you should get as many points as good things that you do. So there's no limit to how many times you could submit the 75 point thing. It's just you might have to submit it to the same portal at first, and then I'll see that that's going on and I'll make a new portal for more 75 points. Same thing with homework. You can resubmit, you can correct, you can update. It's about getting better. It's not about trying to get things, like this is not a Billy Joel song. It's not a romance. We're not trying to get things right the first time. I mean, sure, that's nice, but we're not trying to be so invested in getting things right the first time that we don't know how to try a second time, or we don't know how to try even the first time if we're afraid we're going to fail. Like that is a curse in science. So think of everything you do for me, anything you hand in, especially now that I think Google Classroom accommodates this. Anything you do, you just give to me when you do it, and you just assume that you're going to get some points for it. Then you do more and you get more points. It's just like that, if that makes sense. Okay, wait, sorry. Oh, sorry. Oh, well. Okay, sorry. You see, and if we're not careful, like you all, I'm sure you can see already, like it would be very easy to get me off topic for we could end up talking about video games for 2.5 hours, and I'll find some way to decide that was legitimate somehow. Like it won't be easy to get me off the topic. So yeah, I hear you. And am I saying it right? Quasi? Is that? I'll assume that's right for them. So quasi, I like, yes. And again, and I know not everybody in the room plays video games. And again, for what it's worth, I never played video games until recently. Like I discovered them way late in life. So I can totally relate to the non-relatability as well. But you know, it's COVID. Like we all got to do what we got to do. And frankly, I'll say this one little aside too, because it does seem like there are some people in this room that do play some of the same games that my family and I play. One thing about, and if I haven't mentioned already, Walters is, I mean, he's a gamer, and an impressive one. Here's one secret quick thing about games that I really do feel you could take it or leave it is, as I say, I discovered them sort of recently, but I think at least the games that I know something about, like Nintendo games, in my heart of hearts, what I really think is these people that design these games know more about designing a curriculum than almost every educator I've ever met in my life. I mean, well, that's no, almost every administrator, almost every like person who works higher than the teachers in every school. And I've worked in a lot of schools. I've been teaching again, since I was 21 in every single grade. Okay, here I'm going to brag. I have at one time or another in my life, I have literally taught at one time or another, I have taught every single grade between kindergarten, like 4-year-olds, and graduate school. At one time or another, I've been with every single age group. And I can tell you that the people that design video games are smarter about designing curricula. Like their video games are curricula, as far as I'm concerned. Their games are designed to teach you how to play games. And again, I'm not saying everybody should play games. It may be a waste of time for a lot of people. But one thing that I think is amazing about these games, video games, is that they're designed so that you don't need an instruction manual, right? Like they're designed so that the game itself teaches you how to play the game itself. That's like why for many people they're inviting or fun or addictive or whatever, because they're self-enclosed. They teach you what you need in order to learn the things that they want you to learn. That's what schools should be. I mean, I really think schools, if they were designed half as well as video games, would be a lot better place. And I don't mean they all have to be fun and all about winning and losing, but just the idea that the rules get built by your actions rather than the other way around. It's honestly why I'm a little bit fixated with them these days with my family, because I feel like they're brilliant. I literally have more respect for the people that write those games than I do most people that write most curricula, for whatever it's worth. Oh, that's a great question. But all right. Sorry. Wait, this is what happens when I get off. Hold on a second. I have to collect myself. You can see we're going to be on this topic for 2.5 hours. Hold on a second. The chat is very funny. Wait, on the top. Oh yeah, the top developers do make very big bucks. Oh yeah. No, I'm not saying I'm not saying I feel sorry for them that they're suffering or something like that. But no, I think I don't know, but I just don't know that people understand. I mean, yeah, they do, the top, but a lot of people work. I mean, any one of these games comes out, there's tons and tons of people working on them. And a lot of people on low levels where I don't know that all of them are getting a lot of money, but right, much great. Yeah, I think people work very hard on these. Right. I mean, but and I think but anyway, yeah. But it's like everything, right? These games, they're like art and math, and like I definitely have respect for, even if sometimes playing them can be too much and there's violence and all that stuff. But man, I would never say, like, anybody who just thinks, oh, video games, that's dumb. Well, maybe it's dumb if the player approaches it a certain way, but whoever's behind the games ain't dumb. That's one thing I'm saying. Now, as far as me being a kindergarten professor, yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know what that, yes, but I did teach kindergarten. I don't know what to tell. I couldn't imagine it either. It didn't last that long. I mean, but my favorite grade, no, it is fun. And it was as weird as you think it is probably, but my favorite grade, well, I mean, the honest truth is I love where I am now. I mean, in some sense, everything I did was to get me to this point, maybe. And I don't, like, put it another way, I don't ever fantasize about leaving college or John Jay. Like, I like where I am now, but I will say probably the grade that was the most surprising. Like, I learned a ton, and I'll say it to all of you too. Like, how much, like, I taught kindergarten right after I got my first master's in physics. Like, my head was pounding with physics that was really challenging to me. Like, my brain was crazy full of physics. I came out of and I had already been teaching for a while in my life, but then I came out of graduate school and I got, for reasons I'll explain later, all of a sudden I found myself with these tiny kids. And let me tell you, that really forces you, like that, the smaller the children, the more it forces you to know your material, if you care about your material at all. Like it's easier to teach in a way. You don't have to know your material as well in a way to teach more advanced people in a way. But I would just say, just to answer the question, because it's interesting, but I don't think kindergarten was my favorite. No, I'm not cut out for that over the long haul. I could not handle that over the long haul. But I think my one grade that I also kind of hated, but probably changed my life the most, was 6th grade. I would say 6th grade is the age, just for whatever it's worth, especially for those of you who have children or are going to have children or younger siblings or whatever, that age group of like 11, 12, 13, 10, 11, 12, right there, what I've now come to believe is that that's probably the smartest age that human beings ever are. I think like up until that point, your brain isn't sophisticated enough to handle certain things. Like, you're still sort of trying to get through the day intellectually. But then sixth grade, your mind really starts to get just sophisticated enough to grasp things, but it's still open. I find the brain of a sixth grader, and this is kind of true of my sons too, but the brain of a 12-year-old is open in a way that the brain of a 20-year-old or you guys or me, our brains have been so corrupted by this point, by practical consideration. Like, you guys need a job. I need to keep my job, right? You're here to learn enough to make your life better. That's fine. I'm all for that. But of course, it means you can't think of the ideas quite in the same way, because you always have to think of everything practically. And so do I. And tiny kids like my son can be sometimes like a little bit too everywhere to actually learn something sometimes. But when they're 11 or 12, they're like a sponge and they don't have an agenda. Like, the fast thing that I'm really trying to say, for whatever it's worth, is we're going to get into, Einstein and crazy stuff in this class, hopefully, like the more abstract stuff that's sort of hard to believe sometimes. The harder, weird, harder to believe stuff in physics is easiest to get across to an 11-year-old than any other age, I find, because they're just old enough to see it, but they're not old enough not to believe it. And you'll see what I mean. I'll try to think of examples as we get through in this class. I'll point to things and I'll say, see, this is something that's hard for us to understand, but it's easy for an 11-year-old to understand. I don't know, kids are crazy. Oh yeah, well, I mean, whatever we call physics is a different thing at every age, right? Like, we called it physics to them. I mean, you might call it more physical science or something like that. Like, what we call it at every age is different, but it wouldn't be fair for me to say that I didn't actually teach them physics. If I say that I only taught them watered down physics, then I have to kind of say that about physics 203, or then I have to say that about every physics class. Like, every physics class is watered down compared to the one that comes right after it, but it's all physics. Oh, and this board is out of control. Sorry. I'm totally, oh yeah. Well, there's only two types. Yeah. Oh, right. And then during the middle school years, like 7th and 8th grade, I can easily tell you that my least favorite grades ever to teach, oh, absolutely, 7th and 8th grade are the worst. I mean, from my opinion, that's when people are a disaster. That 7th and 8th grade, whether you're a boy or a girl, your brain could be the size of Jupiter, but your body is so out of control and your whole sense of self is such a mess that it's a wonder. I don't know how anybody gets through the day in 7th or 8th grade with their brain. Like, it's all they can do to manage their bodies, and the fact that, and just convincing themselves that not everybody hates them every 5 minutes. Like, it's all about, not being hated by everybody every 5 minutes. If you're in 7th or 8th grade, there's no room for science as far. Yeah. Oh, 7th grade is a horror. Anybody who can get through. Yeah. So I'm looking again. I'm still okay. But one thing about what Rahel said too, secretly, by the way, I'm aware that we're not talking about the material right now, but I'm also aware that like 5 people are involved in this conversation, and that's 5 more than we sometimes have. So like, I'm going to write, like, this is okay by me. We're getting to know each other. Like, we're discussing life, whatever. What was I, about 6th grade, about Rahel. Oh, what Rahel just said, that she had all bad physics teachers she had bad physics teachers in middle school and high school. Yeah, I'm not surprised. One thing about physics teachers, you may have noticed, the thing about physics teachers, I don't know quite why this is about physics more than other subjects, but physics teachers tend to either really be okay or really be terrible. There are not a lot of very middle, because the thing about physics teachers is, the thing about physics is that if you're teaching it, it means one of two things. You either really love it, and then how bad can that be? Or you don't, and then that sucks. Like, there's nothing worse than physics to teach or to learn if you haven't already decided. Like, well, this is a whole other subject, but the problem, it's terrible to have any physics teacher that either doesn't love the material or loves it in a way that has nothing to do with you. Like, that they really wanted to be a research physicist and it didn't work out, so now they're forced to teach. Like, that's the worst. And that somehow happens more in physics than other areas. I don't know why. But okay. Right. Oh yeah, cool. Right. No, I mean, people do, no, some people, oh, okay. And fair enough about chemistry teachers too. But no, I mean, physics teachers, No, I'm glad. I mean, some of you, by the way, I'll just ask Kat, where did you go to high? I'm just asking Kat because she said she had a good physics teacher. Where did you go to high school?
I'm actually from Texas originally. So I went to high school down there,
Oh, in which part of Texas?
Fort Worth. So my parents didn't have power last week for about 70 hours.
That's a whole
Yeah,
other, I'm so
they're
sorry.
fine now, but I mean, it was just crazy.
No, that is crazy. That's totally crazy. And again, I know but that's very real. That's reality. And I'm sorry to hear that. And as a matter of fact, it's true. My longtime best friend, like my best friend from 7th grade, who's still my best friend because it can work like that. He is a computer science professor at Austin. I mean, in Austin, not in Dallas, not in Fort Worth, but he too. Yeah, that's a crazy situation. I'm so sorry for your family. I mean, I thought COVID was bad enough, but that's like double, triple bonus bad. But they're okay. You're saying?
Yeah, no, I mean, they were very lucky. They didn't have power or heat, but they basically just camped out in front of the fireplace for like 3 days.
Wow.
So it was like living on the prairie again.
Yeah, yeah, right. Living on the prairie or living in a Mel Gibson like horror movie. I mean, yeah, the world is, and this is also why we're just shooting the breeze right now. All because like I can't fool you. I mean, the world is a crazy place right now. Anything we can do to maintain sanity, I'm all for. And that does mean learning some physics, but I think it's easier to learn physics if we can get together. So yes, I'm sorry to hear that, Kat. And I do know. Wait, what else? Okay. And I understand that someone very generously shared their screen and then the screen disappeared. We didn't do anything with the screen yet. Right. No, good. Oh, well, Vanietta, where did you go to high school? If I can, or Quasi, but wait.
Went to Francis Lewis.
Oh, in Brooklyn.
No, I went. It's in Fresh Meadows.
Sorry. Francis Lewis, where? I'm sorry.
Francis Lewis High School. It's in Fresh Meadows.
Oh, I'm in Queens. I'm sorry. Okay, because I think we have one in. Okay, got you. Got it in front. Okay, cool. And I'm sorry. I just gave something else away. There's two types we all know there's two types of people in the world, people that like the Beatles or people that like Elvis, or there's two types of people in the world, people that like chocolate or people like butterscotch. There's also two types of people in the world, people that understand Brooklyn and people that understand Queens. Unfortunately, I admit I'm a Brooklyn person. I mean, I love Queens. Don't get me, some of my best friends Walters is kind of a Queen, but I'm a little bit, sometimes I don't know what's going on in Queens. It's a little scary to me. But I'm not saying that. Oh, even Kat is saying. Oh, but Kat's from. Okay, well, I'm not. Whoa! Oh, wow. Okay. Now we're getting into it. Okay. Don't. Okay, I think that's a good sign that we should probably get back to some physics here. Yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna. Wow. I hope these chats don't get published. And when you say that thing about Walters, I'm assuming that that's a chess reference because the queen is the most powerful piece in chess. I'm assuming that's what you're saying, and that's totally fair because he rocks at chess. Okay. Oh my God. I can't believe you guys can be colloquial in typing. Like, you know how to sound cool when you type. That's so weird. Okay. But someone did do a screen share and I've totally been ignoring it. And I don't mean to do that. Could we actually go back? Would you mind? Sorry, can we go back to that screen share that I'll turn mine off. And again, feel free. You see how it works now. You can jump in anytime and we can still spice these things up. But let's go back for a moment to, oh wait, why is my, okay. Oh, great. Thank you very much. Okay. Great. All right. Well, so there's a little, so we had these three things and you had to prove or disprove. Let me try to cut to the chase now. I mean, there's been so much. When I just look at these right away, let me say, I believe, since there does seem to be confusion about what you proved or disproved, just looking at them, I say that and maybe I shouldn't do this, but I think since you've already had the class, number one is not true. Number two, is, I think I see what he's saying. Number two is true. Number two is true. Number one is not true. And number three is true, is what I would say. Now, is that what you guys are saying? Or, I mean, again, I don't mean to bias you, but I think one is false and two, well, Actually, what, number 3, definitely true. Number 1, definitely false. Number 2, I see. Lab said 1 and 2. Interesting. So you guys concluded 1 and 3 is false, 2 is true. 1 and 3.
Yeah, he had said in the lab that the third one, in order for it to be true, 1 and 2 had to be true. So we disproved 1, so that automatically made 3 not true.
Wait a minute. I see what's happening here. Okay. No, and I know you just said that. I mean, I know you're saying this, but I'm thinking more seriously about it now. So hold on a minute. I see what's confusing here. So then with that, wait,
Like, I think what we said was that 3 would be true if 1 was true.
but he actually said that. He said 3 is only true if 1 and 2 are true. Wait, this is very, I might have to call him. No, yeah. Whoa. Oh, yes, I do agree. This, and now we're into a real discussion here. This, and again, oh, cool. All right, I see what you're scrolling. I appreciate the scrolling. And this is some subtle. Yes. Okay. And I do agree with what Veronica's putting in the chat. I do agree that the first, sorry, I know this is weird. If he's okay. Sorry, excuse me 1 second. But I do agree. I want to address Veronica's thing in the chat. Well, all of this I want to address. Pardon me. Sorry. Okay, again. Okay. But here's. I think, so if I tell you that upon reflection, by the way, these answers that you guys got, you're saying it's what you finally concluded and he confirmed, or it's what you concluded and you're waiting for the next class to see what he says? Does that make, like, did he actually say a final answer, or you guys came to a final answer and class ended? You know what I'm asking? He confirmed. Okay.
Yeah, we had the discussion as a class, and then it was confirmed that for claim 3 to be either true or false, well, for claim 3 to be true, then both claim 1 and claim 2 had to be true as well.
Oh, yes. And now, even though I know I reject, at first that confused me, but I totally agree with that. I see that, and I agree with that too. I'm with that. But then, and that's cool. But then did he, well, I guess where I'm going with this now is, and I'm taking back something I said before because I'm looking at this more carefully. If we all agree on that, and we're saying we do, then I want to say that it looks to me like actually all 3 of these are true then.
What we did like a board meeting. So we talked about it first and came up with our answer as a class. And then he either confirmed or told us like what we did wrong or whatever. So we all said that 1 was untrue. And then we did work to make it to where it would be true so that 3 would be true.
Oh, I like the sound of that. That makes sense to me. Okay. That makes sense to me. Okay. So
yeah, and that's when we got what Veronica said about the t equals the square root, or t equals a square root m instead of what's given. That's what we disproved, and then we did the work and got the right answers so that 3 would be proved.
Okay, that makes a lot. Okay, I like that. That's very helpful. And let me just look at it. Oh yeah, and if you can, Quasi, that would be great. If you can show a screenshot, that would be. Okay, how, I don't know if someone else, this is very helpful. And so far where we are, and I know this is confusing, I'm agreeing with you then, it sounds like. I mean, I think then that is what, right. Until you know what A is, statement number 1 is very slippery. But as long as A is adjusted, to make number 2 true, then number 3 and 1 and 2 can all be true. Okay, you shared a file. All right, let me see. Let me see. Okay, wait, but I have. So I'm gonna look at the screenshot now.
Dad,
Yes, sir.
has anyone wanted to trade with me in Mewtwo?
Not yet, but I'm actually trying. I will ask them that again, but it's been a little bit hard to focus in class right now. So I'm trying to focus right now. But yes, I will ask them again. Hold on. And right now to the class, what I'm doing is opening. I'm opening the screenshot that someone, sorry, that Quasi just shared. I'm trying to share it with everybody because it's cool.
What are they sharing?
Wait. Hold on. Sorry. Oh. Oh. Wait. Can I just ask Quasi, the thing that you just shared that I'm actually trying to share with everybody, was it an image file or a text? Like, what kind of file was it?
He already shared it in the everybody chat.
And you can all, but can you all access it? Okay, because I seem not to be able to, but is it a, do you guys have it then? Oh, it's a print, okay. Okay, but wait, I really do need to, it's great, I love you, but now I'm getting distracted, I have to.
Just tell me when it happens.
I will, okay, but then you text, okay, but now I do have to focus on this, I will, I promise.
Goodbye, Mr. Poop.
Okay, that's very nice, okay. Can you
I
see?
want a snack.
Wait, okay, so ask mom.
Mom's gonna teach though.
What?
Mom's teaching now.
She
has
okay.
the work.
Okay, pardon me.
So
okay.
no one will get me.
Okay, no, I will. Okay, if everybody, I'll be right back. But if you could, if somehow Quasi's screen share is working, if everybody can look at the file that Quasi just shared in the chat. And what I'm saying right now for the moment though is I think all 3 statements are true. And I didn't say that originally because I didn't like it.
What were they?
But they are T is proportional to the square root of M over K. All right. They are true, but I'll be right back. Let me get, all right.
Yay, T's
Oh,
dead.
actually, here's actually, oh, cheese sticks. Here's popcorn.
I don't want
All right,
popcorn.
but then I'm gonna give you cheese sticks. You have to feel this. Do it. All right.
Ah.
Can you guys see my screen now?
Mm-hmm.
I can see it.
Okay.
Me
I tried to
too.
cross your face out because I didn't know if you wanted to be in it, Kat, because your face is on the screenshot.
That's fine. Yeah, okay.
I could see it.
Good, I'm glad.
Professor Yaverbaum, you look so young.
Uh-huh.
That's
I'm
before
6.
you grew out all your hair, right?
I'm 6.
I can only imagine. Okay. Oh wow. Good. Okay. You trade.
No.
You come. No, just seriously, dude. We have to. It's
When
fun.
I get YouTube.
Yeah, you can play YouTube.
Yeah.
You said you go YouTube. Yes. Okay. Well. Okay. Okay. Well, this is gorgeous. Okay. And I'm not talking about my son. I'm talking about the screen share. This is great. And I do apologize for the universe and for COVID and my family and my existence. But no, this is great. I'm looking at the screen share. I love the colors. And yes, I agree with the statement in blue. I agree with the statement in orange. So wow, you guys did a lot. No, I do see what's going on here. Okay. Right, so. But no, there is something confusing. No, right. Well, okay, I'm looking in the chat. But I'm glad we're discussing this because there is something to get to the bottom of here. Like there is a confusion. But wait. What? No, right. Right.
I feel like those are conflicting statements.
No, there is a. what I think the ultimate, no, you're right. There is a confusion here to sort through. I think the screenshot is very helpful. I think everything everybody's saying is helpful, but indeed there's a confusion to sort through. To get to the chase, you're right. There's contradictory things being said. I think the ultimate answer is that all three actually are true. All three are ultimately proven, but why it all looks confusing and why this was like a journey is at first to all of you, the first one, number one, t equals a times m squared. I think that you thought that that was disproven or it seemed wrong until you realized that you could play with a, until you realized how important it was that you didn't actually know what a was. It seems like it's wrong until you start realizing what you can do with a. And then this is my summary. I'm going to break this down more. But I do believe, right, I believe, I'm not sure if I can write on the screen, but on the screen where it says number one, t equals am squared equals disproven, right there, thank you. Yes, exactly. I don't think Quasi made a mistake. Like, I don't think he's making a mistake showing us that or anything, but I think ultimately that is not right. Like, I think that's what you guys thought at the beginning.
This is Professor Walters. Oh, this
This
is all
is
his
Walters?
writing and stuff.
Wait, oh, this is Walter.
Yeah,
That
this
goes
is
by
his
so
like,
good.
notebooks.
Okay, wait. So he said, oh, well then, all right, then I'm really good. So he is literally saying t equals a.
Is the t equals a
wait,
m squared
wait.
at the top with the check? Like, does that mean it's proven?
I'm sorry. Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
The t equals a with the squared m. Yeah, the one that's in the parentheses. Like, what is that supposed to mean?
Oh.
That
may
was
be-
the counter argument because we disproved t equals am squared. And he always
I'm
says
sorry.
when we prove something, you have to prove what is correct instead. And the graph that was generated from the data was a square root function. So that's why we got that one was initially false and we like rearranged it to have the square root function. And that was the correct statement.
Nice. And that also explains everything in the world because no, that's really good, Kat, because that also explains where my brain keeps doing the wrong thing. I see, right. So that's totally good. So this is my bad also. Here's, right. I agree then. I agree with what Kat just said. I agree that this is all very confusing. Kat is a person in the class. She's from Texas, or well, her parents are from Texas. Okay. I agree that, wait, then please go down and get her. I'm trying to, Felix. Sorry. This is a meditation seminar, right? This is group therapy, right? Oh, I'm in the wrong group. Okay. The first one, you are correct. You are all correct. You are all correct. Walters is correct that the first one is disproven. The reason I keep saying the wrong thing, so let me say this as clearly as I can. You're right. Number one is wrong. Number two is right. Number three is right. The reason I kept thinking that number one is wrong. You are right because it says m squared. In my brain, for some reason, unconsciously, I kept thinking it said m to the 1/2. I think because I already know that's the answer. In other words, I kept picturing the square root in my brain, even though it says m squared. So absolutely, you are right. What Joe put a check next to, the t equals a squared of m, right? That's the actual reality. Yes, thank you. Yes, exactly. And t equals a m squared, which I kept unconsciously reading as m to the 1/2. T equals a m squared is wrong because that's right. T is not proportional to m squared. It's proportional to the square root of m. Totally right what you're saying. And then you did all this work to get what a actually is. And so, yes, and my bad. So then I do agree with what's on this colorful Walter sheet. I agree with all of it. And I do apologize and definitely LOL. Yes. The question is, if I say that now, after all this confusion, if I say, I agree with you, number one, wrong, number two, right, number three, right. If I say to that, is that what all of you do think? Does that make you more confused or less confused? I'm scrolling back and out to see who, yeah, one, three is false, two. Right, like, right. So this is where I'm seeing, looking in the chat, I can imagine how many of you, while you were doing this, like me, you might have thought, oh, three can't be right if one and two, if it has to depend on one and two and stuff. But So I'm looking in the chat. Proven after we change one. Right. Oh, and maybe that's my, so on the original screenshot that, sorry, and I don't,
Should I do my shower or get your bed ready?
oh, yes. And that's why there's confusion. Yes, yes. What someone just wrote. Thank you. Yes, yeah, yeah. So,
Or your bath?
right, because you've changed the claim. Right. As written,
Daddy shower?
T equals A M squared. Like as written, I agree. First one disproven, second two proven. But I also agree with you. If this is what's causing confusion, once you rewrite one to make it correct, then all three are right. So wait, so I think, yes, what Quasi's saying? Yes. Yes, good. Oh, and was that cat clapping? Okay, well, yes. So wait, does that mean, even if all we're doing is reinforcing what you already said last week,
No.
are we all on this?
You want to go mommy?
Well, then here, so this is what I'm saying. Then. Yes, if we work with the manipulated claim one, then claim three is true. Right. I'm looking at, yes, I agree with you guys. Awesome. Okay. Then, and I'm sorry it took so long. So we'll never talk about video games again. This is what happens. I'm just kidding. No, that was a joke. That was a joke. For you. So then I'm going to now write. All right. So we're going to move. Then here's what we have. Oh, sorry. So if you don't mind, I'm going to stop that share and I'm going to, or can you? Yes, thank you. And I'm going to start again where we were. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Check out this cool costume. Whoa, it looks so realistic on it. Like if it goes like this.
Okay. Okay. So this is where I think we're going to go. Oh God, sorry.
Extend your legs. Yeah. There you go. That's cool. This is regular life. All right, transform back to Optimus Prime. Can you do it?
Okay. What I think now to like move things, and again, apologizing for any confusion, to try to move this forward. This is what I view as the summary then of all three of those motions put together. Like you had to do a lot of work and a lot of thought because again, what we're doing now in physics, like why this is tricky or confusing, we're really doing what might seem like reverse engineering here. That is what you're used to in science, or what many of us are used to in science is we're used to having equations and formulas and using the equations and formulas in order to solve problems. Like we get a problem, we look for a solution, the solution comes from using equations and formulas. Like that's what we're used to in science, for right or for wrong, or I think many of us are. What I'm saying that actually goes on in physics, or at least in this class, we're much more interested here in actually developing the equations in the first place. Like for us, the answers we seek, we don't get answers by using equations. We seek the equations. We're trying to do physics, not just hear about it, so to speak. And that's very tricky, actually coming up with the equations in the first place. And the only way to do that is from careful analysis of lab data. So which is hard, in computer simulations as you're doing. But all the work you're doing, what I want to say, and I may look back at that screenshot again in a second, is if you had to tweak those three motions in a very, you had to be very careful. And I'm very impressed, by the way, like this confusion today was mine, and I apologize. And obviously it got extended a little bit because of other distractions. But just to be clear, like we were able to sort through this confusion because you guys are being very, very precise in your like listening and note taking. Like I really do feel like you clearly, precisely got the subtleties of him, to the point where you can keep me in my place, which is good. What I'm saying now is I think if you put those three versions of the motion together, in a way, the conclusion that you end up with is this, which, and this is the part that might not have been clear to you before, like I'm saying, uh, okay, now I'm trying to use some. Yeah, now, oh, very good question, Veronica. Here, very good question. And actually, because of that question, is sort of why I'm taking the pains to write this down. The fast answer to Veronica's question is the A that I am using here does not necessarily mean amplitude. But it's a really good question that Veronica's asking, because we are definitely going to care about amplitude a lot. We will care about amplitude. And you may already be caring about amplitude with Joe and everything. So this is why, almost on purpose, the A that I'm using here, I'm using A in the same way that Joe did, that Walters did, but I'm intentionally making it lowercase. I mean, I'm really glad that Veronica just asked that. Where I'm using A right here, I'm trying to use it the same way Walters did, which is just mean some constant, some number that doesn't change, but we don't necessarily know what it is. And it might be a number with units, like A could be an amplitude. It could be some number of meters or something, but it doesn't need to be at all. And in fact, more specifically, what I'm really saying is I'm using A the same way Walters used it, but I'm not even saying that my A right here is the same A that you solved for with him. Like that capital A where you got something about like 1 over square root of K or blah, blah. I'm not saying any of that's wrong at all. And I'm not trying to tell you to forget it or anything, not at all. But I'm trying to get to a certain conclusion. I think what's very confusing to everybody, and in fact, it threw me 10 minutes ago, the way that he's using A, capital A, and the way that I'm using lowercase a here, we mean specifically some constant. What we really, so it might be amplitude, but it doesn't need to be. And in fact, specifically right here, it really isn't actually amplitude. Oh, wait, chat, I'm gonna, right. It doesn't actually stand for amplitude. Let me be more specific. Sorry. I'm going to turn the page in a second just to see. We want to make a big distinction in physics between constants and variables. And let me tell you, this is a really important distinction. And like all important distinctions, it sounds like really obvious and kindergarten level, but actually gets slippery fast at all levels of physics. Like, because the more we do physics, the more we see we're trying to develop equations, not use them. We're trying to discover or come up with equations. And the more we have equations or functions, the more we start noticing, like, and you know this from chemistry and biology and stuff, or mostly chemistry, like equations tend to have a lot of letters in them, some numbers, but the more advanced you get, the more they're just like full of letters. Like PV equals nRT, right, is an equation. It's like all about letters. And it's all about, in other words, letters that stand for numbers that we may or might not know something about. And the more exotic equations get, the more letters they have in them, the more it becomes super important to know the different, like how the different letters are doing different things in an equation. Some letters stand for variables, quantities that are actually meant, like whether you know them or not, they're meant to be changing while you use that equation. But other letters stand for numbers that you also might not know any more than you know the variable numbers, but they're not meant to be changing. So it's like a very big distinction. And often these things that we call constants, letters that stand for numbers that don't change within a given equation, they might not change, but that might be the only thing we know about them. So what I'm really trying to get at here, and I know he said this to you, but it was a new thing to me, like at some point in physics, like we're really trying to say is, sorry, I am writing that, but wait. Okay. Right now, again, I know that he said a version of this, and I know that you've heard this in a million math classes your whole life in a way. Like if there's one thing that people tend to hear a lot about in math classes and science classes, like for a lot of their career, it's this idea of direct proportionality, one thing being directly proportional to another thing. Now, so I want to give you my version for a moment. Again, this may be a little bit redundant, but it's meant to be clarifying. Like direct proportionality or linear. Okay, I'll say that too. Hold on. I'll go back to this page in a second, but just to make it even more clear if I can. Whoop. Didn't mean to do that. What just happened? Sorry. Oh, yeah, okay. Like direct proportionality is huge in physics. It's so important in physics, but it's both. It's like it's our friend and our enemy. Direct proportionality. when one thing is in direct proportion to another, what we mean is if we put them on a graph, we'd see a straight line, right? So put more, even better, when one thing is directly proportional, when one quantity varies in a manner that is directly proportional to another quantity, that means that the variation is what we all kind of want it to be and hope it is and can deal with. Like direct proportionality is the kind of relationship that we all, scientists and non-scientists, all prefer, whether they know it or not. We all love the direct proportionality relationship because it's the one that we can relate to the most easily. We can do in our head, and we kind of end up wishing that everything was that way. What I mean is like any straight line graph idea that you could think of at all. Any straight line graph, if it's a graph, say of whatever you're graphing, if it's a straight line graph, then it means whatever's on the x-axis, if you double it, you're going to double what's on the y-axis. Whatever's on the x-axis, if you triple it, you're going to triple the result on the y-axis. Like if my income is directly proportional to the number of hours I work, right? If I get paid by the hour. So my income is directly proportional to the hours I work. While we all can sort of deal with that, we all kind of like that kind of idea, even if we don't love making graphs or equations or anything, people can relate to the idea that you're paid by the hour, because what everybody sort of intuitively knows is, they might not know what everybody intuitively knows is if you're paid by the hour. Okay, I'm gonna write this. Hold on, sorry. I'm just gonna get this, as long as I'm doing this, I'm gonna get this off my chest. Okay, this actually is a good example. I'm going to dwell on this for a second because I actually think this makes the point more concretely than I expected in a way. I'm saying, like, just imagine you have an hourly wage, right? Like you work at GameStop. So you get paid a certain amount of money per hour. Now, I don't know what that money, I don't know if you get $3 an hour or $4 an hour or whatever. I also don't even know if you happen to already have money in your pocket before you started working at GameStop. Like, so I do not know how much money you have. And even if you tell me I worked 7 hours now, do you know how much money I have? I don't know, because I don't know what your hourly wage is. Plus, I don't even know if you already had money in your pocket before you started or anything like that, right? So if you just tell me that you have an hourly wage, there's a lot I don't know. Most specifically, what I don't know is if you work a certain number of hours, how much money will you make? I don't know unless you tell me your hourly wage. But if you tell me it's an hourly wage, if you say for every hour I make the same amount of money every hour, whatever that amount is, then I do know that if you made a certain amount of money for working 2 hours, you're going to make twice that amount of money for working 4 hours. Like I do know, for example, if you start this job with zero money in your pocket and you're working for a while, right? And I still don't know your hourly rate, but I know you've been working for a while, and then you're like, dude, this is like rough going, this working, like maybe I should be an Uber driver or whatever, no, or whatever. And you're like, I totally, like, I need to double my money. Like I need to double my money before Christmas. Otherwise I can't do Christmas shopping or Hanukkah shop or whatever. Then I can tell you definitively, even if I don't know how much money you have, even if I don't know how much money you make per hour, if you say I need to double my money, I would say double your hours. And I'd be right? Or and vice versa. If you told me you just tripled your hours, I would say, well, great, you just made 3 times as much money as you used to. That is what linearity means. That's what direct proportionality means. Like, please, what I'm saying is, like, to say that one thing is directly proportional to another, first of all, it definitely does mean the same thing as if you put them on a graph, you get a straight line, which is what we all love. because we can all understand straight lines, because straight lines mean what I just said. They always mean if you double the independent variable, you double the triple. No, if you double the independent variable, you double the dependent variable. Like whatever you do to X is what happens to Y if they are directly proportional to each other. But notice, because yeah, direct proportionality means Y equals MX plus B. But what does that mean? Like Y equals MX plus B, the whole thing that Joe is putting you through, the intensity of this is because we're actually trying to use lab data to develop equations, not the other way around. That is hard. I mean, it does take reverse engineering. It does take discussion like that. And it does take a class where you have both pieces, like the lab piece and the discussion piece, whatever. So at the risk of beating a dead horse, what I'm trying to say is what's good about straight line relationships is they are Y equals MX plus B. They guarantee that whatever happens to X will happen correspondingly to Y. And by the way, again, that's in contrast to any other kind of relationships, like a Y equals MX squared plus B or something like that we get into this lab, right? That goes out the window then, even though it's still an equation and a formula. If you have, well, maybe I'm getting too off the topic, but unless you know something is direct variation, then you can't even say, I'm getting off the topic, but when it is direct variation, you can say whatever happens to X will happen to Y. That is another way of saying, oh yeah, the slope is constant. Like if it's a linear relationship, if it's a direct proportionality, that means that on a graph, it's linear. And if on a graph it's linear, it means that for every certain amount of run, you'll get a certain amount of rise, and that ratio never changes, right? The slope in Y equals MX plus B is always M. So that means whatever you do to the run, you're always doing to the rise because their ratio must stay fixed, right? But what it doesn't tell you, the main thing I'm trying to, we have this symbol, direct proportionality, because this whole idea is so important. If you can know that two variables will fit with each other on a graph of a straight line, that's such a powerful thing to know because of everything I just said. But the key is to know that Y equals MX plus B, does mean that whatever happens to X will happen to Y. But it also means that if you actually want to know what Y is, like if I actually want to know how much money you have after working at GameStop for 3 weeks, well, then I better know what M is, right? Like all the linearity in the world, I'm really trying to say here, a straight line relationship gives all this kind of powerful information that other relationships don't. But it's still, all the powerful information that it gives is about the relationship. It tells you what happens to the run. It tells you what happens to the rise given something known happening to the run. But it will never just tell you what the rise is, or it'll never just tell you what the value of Y is. Just by knowing that Y is directly proportional to X, to know that Y is directly proportional to X is saying Y equals MX, where M stands for some arbitrary constant. You can call it M in a math class, or you can call it capital A if you're Joe Walters, or you can call it lowercase a if you're me today. But when we're using this little letter A, we mean it like the way you use M in a math class. We're saying it's just a constant that on the one hand is just a number, and ultimately, hopefully we can get, or something like that, and then we'll be psyched. But until we get it, to say that Y is proportional to X means the same thing as Y equals MX plus B or AX means we don't have an exact equality until we figure out the value of the constant. And in a way, what you were trying to do last week, you were both trying to figure out what kind of relationships you were dealing with, and you were trying to figure out constants. That's at the same time, because that's what scientists have to do, and that's what's hard. But okay.
For last time, is anyone rating me and you two?
I'm gonna ask him. I need. We're almost done. I'm gonna ask them.
Bye.
Bye. I love you.
Tell me if they do.
I totally will. So. Oh, I'm looking at the chat for a second. Good. Okay. Cool. Yes, I believe I love money too, although I'm not sure because I haven't seen any for a while. Did I mention this whole the teaching thing that doesn't really? You didn't ask me which, but anyway, yeah. Yes, money. Wait, and what time? Okay. And I know we're going to need a break or something, but clearly everybody needs a break. But I want to get somewhere before we. I mean, I know right now we're still like in the mud of your last week. I don't know that I'm doing a very good job of clearing it up yet at all, but here's what I'm saying right now. I believe that the summary of what you guys are telling me, or the summary of the work you did last week, when you put the three things together, and maybe I should look at them again in a second to make absolutely sure, but I think that what you're telling me, when you put the three things together, you have found by that T, like, well, put in, because, right, so far, again, just kind of trying to summarize what I think you did, what I think you're telling me, and what I think the process is. You had to do a bunch of work, like you did a bunch of different masses, you tried a bunch of different masses and measured what their period, the resulting period of oscillation was. I mean, I haven't even defined these terms, but you did in the lab, presumably. But right, you first, you had to try a bunch of different masses, you used mass as the independent variable. And for each mass, you're trying to see, well, what kind of period does it result in? So you put period, capital T, on the dependent variable axis. And what you found, and this is important, I mean, and again, I'm partly trying to tell you what I think you're telling me, but let me know if I'm right. What you found is that the way your data falls is it doesn't fall in a straight line. So you concluded that T is not directly proportional to M. It's directly proportional to the square root of M. Like the data of M, I mean, the data of T versus M seems to fall into what looks most familiar, like what looks most similar of all the things we ever recognize to be a square root curve. So you're saying, oh, I think t is proportional to the square root of m, but this because of that curve. But that's not an exact equation. It doesn't tell you what to do if you want to plug in m and get out t. It tells you that t is equal to some constant times the square root of m. So if you want to plug in m and get t, you'd have to know what that constant is. So Joe called that constant capital A, in effect, and you did a bunch of stuff to play with what you learned about A. So you did other data and you found, again, I'm just summarizing what I think you're telling me, but tell me if it makes sense. Then you find that this constant you found that this constant, which remember, I'm warning you, a constant in physics is a number that's known or unknown, but a number that doesn't change, but certainly can have units. I mean, it will have whatever units it needs to have to make the whole equation make sense. So sometimes it might not have units, but it can or cannot have units, and the units have to work. So what you did is you found that this constant sorry, I'm going to go to the next page now, if you don't mind. Oh, sorry. I'll flip back to this page if you want. Again, maybe all this is not necessary, maybe, but I think that, oh, let me look in the chat. I mean, again, I'm not thinking that I'm saying anything new. I'm trying to clarify what you already, but maybe I'm just making it worse. I'm just going to pause for a second and look. But this is where I think we're up to now. Let me just look in the chat and see what you're. Oh, great. Yes, I totally get what Quasi's saying, and I think that is a very important and true observation. And now what Kat is saying, wait. Oh yeah, right, totally. Yeah. So that. Wait. Oh, wait. Oh yeah. Oh, okay, fine. Sorry, I didn't understand what Scott was saying at first, but now I do. Yeah. Okay, wait, so I think we're all saying something similar here. Like, and by the way, if the biggest Yeah, I agree with what everybody is saying. Like for my mind, what makes it very clear, like, and I know you don't have a lot of data points. I mean, you don't have a lot of data points. That makes this difficult. And getting good data and getting a trend is always difficult. I mean, it really is the warp and woof of science. But I definitely agree with you guys that seeing that it's a curve, it's most easy and vivid to see that it's a curve when you realize that 0, 0 should be a point. I do the same thing with Michael. I do agree with that. I also agree with what I think Skylar is saying, or someone saying that even if you don't put 0, 0 into the point, depending on your data and depending on your scale, it's possible to see that this thing is not a straight line. It is not a straight line. But by the way, that, if nothing else, that's a major takeaway. Like even if this has now been 2 weeks, if it's starting to get all redundant or thick or boring, hopefully that's better than if it's getting all thick and confusing. But one major thing that's going on here in the whole discussions, one thing that's I totally am.
Has
I
they
really
even done
I-
that?
wait, I really do need to. Okay. What,
Did they even answer?
no, because I can't. I really will when I have some time to actually. I promise, but I've got to focus. I'm using.
Do it now.
Thank you.
You said you were doing it a little bit.
Right, a little uninterrupted bit. Yes.
And I'll be taking these for my collection.
Okay. What?
They
You can. Okay.
and not a single one.
Okay.
missed.
The main thing that's really going on here is as simple as the sound. It always comes down to something simple. The main question at any given moment is it a curve or not? And by it, I mean whatever we're talking about in this class at any given moment. We're trying to get a bunch of data, from an experiment. The fundamental question always, once you've decided on both your axes, your issue, and once you're making a graph, the issue for all time for all of us at the most advanced stages of science, I really can say this with confidence. I can say this with confidence that whenever we're collecting data from an experiment and then putting it together into a graph, which is what we always do for 1,000 reasons, the first question always is this data landing in something I could call a line or not? Like, it's never going to be an exact line because it's reality. But is their first consideration for all scientists always is the data falling into more or less a line or not? Because if it's a line, not only do we know everything about direct variation that I've been trying to say, like the money example, like we love lines. If you think straight line functions are easier for you to deal with, you got to please understand that makes you a scientist. It doesn't make you like bad scientist. We all find straight lines dealable. If you have a straight line, all you need to know is its slope, and then you know everything you need to know about it. And it's easy to get its slope if it's a straight line, because if it's a straight line, anywhere you measure slope, anywhere that's convenient and easy to measure slope is guaranteed to give you a fair, correct answer that would apply anywhere else because the slope is constant, right? Like this is a major feature of straight lines. So any data we throw down, what we're hoping to find is a straight line. But here's the second thing that I didn't understand for years and years and years as a scientist, is that if your data is not falling in a straight line, as it does not here, I mean, I completely agree with you guys that if you are trying to see the relationship between period and mass, if when you throw down your data, you see some kind of curve, as you guys did, then the trick that all scientists always try to do is guess what kind of curve that is, which is what you guys did. You saw a curve and you guessed it was like a square root curve. You could have guessed something else. You could have guessed y equals x to the 1/3. You could have guessed some hyperbolic weird like tangent of x or something. Like a lot of curves like look kind of like the one you found. But you did the right scientific thing. So I'm going to even write this that way. Okay, so first, so I just want to say again, like I used to think that like they made a big deal of y equals mx plus b because it was easier for us as students. But then anything else like y equals ax squared or y equals ax cubed plus bx squared, like anything else, I figured the reason we weren't getting to those at some point in science classes was because like they were just like treating us as students and like holding off the harder stuff for like real science. But no, that was wrong. Like the real thing of science is that as scientists, we all want to make things as simple as possible for ourselves. Like nature and life is already complicated. We're not here to make life more complicated, as much as it doesn't seem that way. We're here to try to draw simplicity out of the complex mess that already faces us. So what we all want all the time, we throw our data down, the first thing we're all hoping for is a freaking straight line. That's what we all want, is a straight line. If we get a straight line, we measure the slope anywhere, and that's the slope everywhere, and boom, we have our function. We have our new equation to describe that data for all time. But if not, but again, that's what we always want. But if not, and this is what you found or finding, if not, step 2, if not, what did I say? Right, 2. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a grammatical error. Oh, grammatical error, I should say data fall, not data falls, but anyway, all right. Data do not fall. And just sort of reviewing what you did on Wednesday, trying to put it in perspective. I'm probably taking more long than this with this than I should, but I'm saying now, here's like, because then again, in a way, what you did on Wednesday with him, and again, not easy, but what you did is like a standard operating procedure for all time. And there were a couple of steps to it that you may or may not have totally realized. Like, so step 1 was you throw your data down and you like hope that your data falls into a straight line. Now, but then we went to step 2, because what all you guys are telling me, and I completely agree, and is that when you threw down your data, and the data we're talking about here is T data and M data, like period of oscillation versus mass of oscillator, right? That's the relationship you were looking for, partly because your teacher asked you to, but that's the data you threw down. And correctly, you guys said, oh, that does not look like a straight line, like especially if we include 0, 0, which is an important thing to remember to do when it applies. You guys said, oh no, we're not seeing a straight line, we're seeing a curve, right? So you saw, and I know you know, oh, this happens every time. So you saw, right, you saw something like this. And remember, then there's units, like this is a science graph, not a math graph, right? So we have like mass measured in kilograms on that axis. We have period measured in seconds on this axis. And the data you saw was more or less like, you know, nothing is ever perfect in the lab, but it was more like that or something. You probably only had like 3 data points or 4 with 0, 0. So then you said, wait, this doesn't look like a straight line. You guys said, oh, no, this looks more or less like a curve. Like if I do a best fit curve, like if I do a curve that doesn't, if I don't play connect the dots, but I sort of go above as many dots as I go under, you know, so like well, I'm going to play, but like, that's terrible. Like that. right? Like approximate, like I'm not trying to hit every dot. If I hit every dot, something's weird and wrong anyway, but I'm trying to be a little bit under half the dots and a little bit over half the dots. And when I do that, now I have a curve, right? Now, please understand, here's the part, I know you did this, but this is like a big step in science. You looked at that curve. And again, what we're trying to find out for all of this, and this will all eventually bring us back to the last question of homework 1. And I know we're talking a lot about this, so don't worry about, I mean, I probably won't. In fact, I can definitively tell you right now, all of you, your reward for being so patient and flexible today is that I'm not actually even going to assign any new homework, I don't think, for next Monday. I'm going to regret that. But besides the game and everything, I'm probably not going to put a new worksheet in because I think we still have enough to discuss the old one and you deserve a break and blah, blah. But hopefully this will do something for you. We're saying when you looked at the data, you said, oh, that is not a straight line. Oh, you're looking for a function, t as a function of m. And you looked at it and you said, oh, that's not a straight line. So it's not true. You said, oh, t does not equal some, let me put it better. You said it's not the case that t is proportional to m. T does not equal some constant times m, right? Whether you call it capital A or lowercase a, right? You're saying t is not equal to like, it's not a straight line. So here m means mass, it doesn't mean slope, but you're saying there's not any one number that can be multiplied by m to give you t, right? So you said t is some other function of m. You said t is some other function of m. And then what happened is either Joe from his memory or one of you guys from your memory, but here's the important part to realize, one of you guessed, somebody in the room guessed, and it's really important to recognize this, because it sounds unscientific, but it's actually the essence of science. Somebody in the room, whether it was Walters or one of you guys, looked at that shape and you said, oh, you know, that reminds me of like a square root graph, like from math. That's all you're saying is that it reminds me of a square root function of math. It doesn't prove anything, but you're saying that looks pretty much like that type of shape in a very simple way. Looks like a square root graph from math. Now, please, like a lot of people might have missed the moment where all of a sudden you started writing down square root. Because to be fair, a lot of people in the room either might not have recognized that as a square root function from math. Like you have to remember a lot to remember that. Or some of you might, once it was said, you might be like, yeah, that's a square root function from math, I guess, but I would never have thought of that. Or like, how do you know that's exactly right? That seems kind of vague. Or you might even have thought, but isn't it other things for math also? Like, I want to make it clear to everybody, you'd be right. If you think there's other ways to describe this function too, there are. I don't know for a fact that this thing is a square root function at all. What I know, and this is very important, again, this is why this is real science. No, when Joe wrote down with authority, t proportional to m square rooted, I'm not saying he was wrong, but I'm saying you shouldn't feel like that was just black. I mean, you might feel that was just black magic or arbitrary, like he just knew something that you didn't know. Or how did he know that was definitively the right answer? He doesn't or didn't when he said it, and neither do you. It is a guess. It's a conjecture for a very important reason. Like how would it come to your mind? Just to remind you down here. Remember, I think most of you would recognize from math, and I'm not trying to condescend to, like, again, everybody's at different levels with all the stuff, but I think you would remember in math that if I have something that looks like that, like a parabola, where like I think you would agree that is something like y equals something times x squared, right? It might even be 1 times x squared, or for it's right, like a parabola like that is like y equals x squared. So really what we're saying is, if you just switch x and y, if you made this y and this x, then what is it? Well, then it's x equals y squared, which is the same thing as y equals square root of x. Again, if I don't know what a is, basically I'm just saying that this thing is a parabola turned on its side. That's why maybe anybody might ever think to associate it with a square root, because it's just like y equals x squared, but with the x and the y flipped because we turned it on its side. That's why x square rooted might come into anybody's mind, or why we might look at this graph and say, oh, I guess t is not equal to a times m. t is equal to some kind of constant times m to the 1/2. Like that is what we're conjecturing. But then, but like we don't know that for a fact. All you need to know, all that's fair to know is that this graph reminds us of a square root function. Oh, and furthermore, that the square root function that this graph reminds us of is the simplest function we can think of in our mind. Like we want to make our life, if we're going to test a guess, if we're going to use a guess, we want the guess to be simple. Like we don't, I mean, why make our life more complicated than it needs to be? But the reason we're going to get away with this guess, this is the part I want to make clear. The reason we're allowed to just like guess in science, because we actually guess a lot more than one might realize. The reason we're allowed to guess is not only that sometimes there's nothing else to do but guess, but also that we have mechanisms for checking the guess. Like what we do is we guess. So now back to step 2. So I'm about to go to the next page, but if the data don't, I mean, it sounds so urban, but it's really right? Because data is plural, right? Not so if the data don't fall into a linear relationship, then we guess what kind of relationship it is. And this is the part that I'm spending all my time right now, because the guess is the moment that the most people either space out and don't hear, or they reject and don't like, because it seems the most non-scientific of all of this, but it actually is the actual science part. All the rest of it is just following recipes and cookbooks. The science part is knowing how to move the ball forward when there's no clear procedure. And how we do that is we make an educated guess. We say, oh, that curve looks like a square root function, or at least the simplest thing I could think of that I'd even want to try is a square root function. And then we're allowed to make that guess, because then before going any further, we right away test that guess. And testing guesses is a lot easier and more definitive than coming up with them in the first place. So what do I mean by that? And this is what you did. Okay, here's the thing I'm now trying to say that, oh, let me look in the chat and I know, are we running? And we're not going to go too much further. I know what this is like getting thick and long. Just looking to, oh, okay. I think I'm very behind. Maybe I'm not even, okay. I'm not totally sure about the chat, but yeah, okay. Okay. I mean, cool. I'm saying then that if we believed in this case, like somebody said, oh yeah, that curve, it's not straight, so it's not a straight line. It's not y equals mx plus b. It's like some exotic thing. And of course, if I were any of you, that's when I would start getting intimidated. Like, okay, crap, it's not a straight line. I wish it were, but okay, it's not a straight line. Okay, yeah, I can sort of see that the curve, yeah, I guess it's a square root curve, but now what do you want me to do? I mean, Jesus, I don't know anything about square root curves. Like what's that all about? What we do then is we do a test, and you did this, whether you understood it or not. We're then going to test our curvy guess. We're going to test the square root thing with a method that not only will tell us if we're right or wrong, but will in fact tell us what the missing constant is if we're right. Let me make that. That's I'm going to say now, and again, we're going to wrap this soon. And I know a lot of what I'm saying is just different words for what Walter's already did. But again, hopefully, maybe it's clarifying for some people who didn't get it, his words. I'm saying now that whatever I'm trying to say is what we always do. And again, what I did not understand for years and years and years what was happening in physics labs. But what we're trying to do is once we say, okay, it's a curve, we actually guess the nature of that curve, and we guess it in a way that will allow us not only to find out if we're right or wrong, but will also tell us something about what that constant is. And once we have that constant, if we can verify this, like if we're guessing that think about this, like we just have a bunch of masses. I mean, you don't think about it, you did it, but if you have a bunch of masses, and with each mass you put on the spring, you measure the period of that mass, then you put a different mass on the spring, you measure the period of that mass. So you have a bunch of these masses and a bunch of the resulting periods. Again, in your case, I know it's really only like 3 or 4. But you have masses, 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 you have periods, periods, periods. And that's all you did, right? You just took data. But then you throw the data down on a graph, and now the graph looks weird and intimidating, like it doesn't look like a straight line. But what we're saying is, if you really think about it, as long as you can nail down correctly the shape of that graph, put another way, like the power that the variable is being raised to, if you could figure out what power the variable is being raised to, and it might be a negative power, it might be a fraction, but once you know the power that the variable is being raised to, you pretty much know. I mean, that's a way of saying what the shape, what the type of function is. And if you could verify that, and I haven't said that we did that yet, but if we could verify that power, that 1/2, and if we could get what the value of that constant is, like we still don't know, we know t is proportional, we think, to m to the 1/2, but we don't know what the constant is. If we could verify the 1/2 and get the constant, then of course we would be done. We would then have an equation for all time. And all we needed to make that equation was the data, right? Like this is how you get from data to an equation. What I'm saying that you do is you first assess the shape, and then you assess the details, i.e. the constants for that shape. So it all comes down to guessing a good shape and then checking it. But how do we check? It's what you did, but you may not have realized what you're doing. Again, sorry to talk so much. So what am I talking about though? What is this guess? what is happening, the thing that I feel the most compelled to break down, even if you already get it, the thing that you did with him, and like why you had three different motions that were ultimately sort of why you needed three different things to play around with in order to ultimately get one equation, is that what you were really saying. Well, I'll just read this out loud. So what you were trying to do is ultimately linearize a nonlinear thing and a nonlinear relationship. And this is the secret of experimental science. And I really mean, it like the real thing that goes on in almost every physics lab. I mean, any real physics research, is you get a bunch of data, you turn it into a graph, like always, everything's always about data and graphs. And the reason everything is about graphs is because everything is about an independent variable and a dependent variable, or put another way, everything is about cause and effect, if you like. The whole idea of any experiment is hold the whole world still and just try to tweak one knob of the world without messing with any other knobs, right? Like vary the mass that you're going to put on a spring while trying to hold still the stiffness of the spring itself, the air resistance in the room, the gravity, like hold everything constant, but tweak one variable, which we call the independent variable, tweak the mass and see how nature responds in the period. Like that, as boring as that sounds, that is every single experiment by definition in the world, is tweak one independent variable, hope you're holding everything else constant, and just let nature respond with one dependent variable. Map that response. That's what you're doing in the lab always, right? So what I'm saying now is what always ends up happening is you get a graph from your data that may well not be a curve, but that may well not be a straight line. If it is a straight line, you're like off to get your Nobel Prize money, like, or whatever. Like we're always psyched if it's a straight line, but if it's not a straight line, what you did, whether realizing it or not, is you take your curve and you turn it into a straight line. It's almost crazy that we can even do this, but this is what we do. We say, and again, I'm just trying to tell you in different words what you did. But what we do is we say, actually, let me make this really clear. Okay, so I'm going to say now, and like, so what you get, so you're mapping t as a function of m, right? You threw down the data, you saw this curve. Someone said, damn it, it's not a straight line. It's not y equals mx plus b. Maybe it's y equals some function of x to the 1/2. Someone said, or maybe it's t equals some function of m to the 1/2. Someone says, and maybe it's like a teacher with authority. So everybody's like, yeah, that sounds reasonable. Teach, okay. So what do we do to actually find out if that's true and actually find out what the constant is? What we did, I'm not asking, I'm telling you, just to be, what we do is this, and then we will pause a second. We make, and it now, and this is the key, this is the part that is either magic or corruption, depending on how you view it. But we've been trying to come up with a relationship between t and m. You took a bunch of data between T and M. You made a graph of T and M, but then you found it was a curve. So what does a good scientist do once he sees that it's a curve? He changes the actual thing that's on the, or she changes what's actually on the graph. Like, and this is a part, I know some of you understood this and this is redundant maybe, but this, what I'm about to say slipped by me 400 times when the teacher did it. So like, I'm not trying to insult anybody, even if this was on the board, I'm trying to make this point like my way, just in case. I'm saying you made a new graph with new axes for which the x-axis was not mass anymore. What you do as a trick, or maybe you didn't even literally physically do this, but in our minds, what we do is we say, if we believe, if we are pretty certain that t is a function of m to the 1/2, then the way to test that is take our table of values, like okay, let's just say this is just a random table of values down here. I think it's not bad, but it's a random table of values right now. If you were of M in kilograms and T in seconds, if you were making a regular M versus T graph, you would, you'd plot those points like on an MT axis, and everybody knows how to do that. And you did do that. So, so you'd have a point like 4, 4, and you'd have a point like 9, 6. Oh, that can't be right. Sorry. 2. Sorry. I meant to do, sorry. Oh no, that's fine. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's fine. And then you do 9, 6, and then you do this point like 26, 10. That's if you were just graphing the actual data that you got, and that's what you did. And when you did that, you got this weird curve. What we do here instead is we take every t value and we map it to the square root of m instead, like to make this funny graph. And again, this is a strange thing to do. It's a technique. It's like a trick. Right, so I'm putting that last number is 26, which is not a perfect square, just because this just showed this could be like realistic data. I'm saying that what we end up doing then is we say, okay, we're going to plot these points. This is very, oh, well, what I'm getting, this question from Veronica is good. This is what I'm sort of getting at. And I know I'm going all around the mulberry bush, but I'm actually going to say, if you look, I'm going to say you're going to derive the constant from, from this linearized graph. Like what I'm saying here is, if you look at this graph that I just made, and you could, I don't know if you literally did this, but you could do this from your data. Notice, this is a very subtle thing. It's very powerful. And it turns out it's done in almost every single experiment, like ever in physics. I did not realize it. Like I went through all of college physics and I went through half of graduate school with not understanding, like not even knowing about this. Like, I mean, I heard the term linearize all the time. I had no idea what they were talking about. I certainly did not know that this was going on all the time. What's going on is, I know you already got M data and T data and you put them on a graph directly. Like you made a table of values in principle and you just whatever the values were from the table, you just put as ordered pairs straight into the graph, as you should. But the moment anybody guesses that t is not a straight line function of m, that they guess that t is a square root function of m, what we're saying is, oh my God, if you say that t doesn't vary directly as a function of m, but rather t varies as a function of the square root of m, then actually secretly what you're saying, if you really mean that, if it's really true, if your graph is really a curve and it's really a square root curve, if we're really saying that t doesn't depend on m directly, but it depends on the square root of m directly, then if we're right, what I'm saying is, whether you literally did this with Joe or not, but what I'm saying is the reason we can believe what Joe said, or you guys said, whoever said, oh, that's a square root function, please understand that that is a guess. That maybe an experienced person might be able to make that guess faster, like they might have seen more square root functions in their time, but it is simply a guess. They are not right just because they're experienced or something. What we do with that guess is we say, okay, we take it super seriously. We say, okay, if t is varying as a function of the square root of m, why don't, we'll just make up a new number if you like. It's like you could say, all right, then from now on, every m value that you ever take the square root of that and call it n if you like, if that makes it easier. Like give it a new variable name if you like. But take every m value and take the square root of it, because we believe that this thing is depending on the square root of m. So instead of mapping m values to t values, we map the square root of m to the corresponding t. This is the subtlety. I'm saying don't take the square root of m and t. That would defy the whole purpose. Take the square root of m and map it pair the square root of m with whatever that corresponding t is, so these go together and these go together and these go together. Instead of mapping 4, 4, 9, 6, 26, 10, we're going to map the square root of m to our t's. I'm not changing the t's. I'm only changing the m's, and I'm picking the ones that correspond. But if I do that and I make a graph that hopefully you can see what I'm trying to say, and I kind of did this right, strangely, I'm saying that then those points, they might not fall exactly on a straight line any more than the original thing was exactly a square root curve, or nothing is exact in experimental science. But look, those dots fall they fall a heck of a lot closer to a trend like that. Sorry, that's supposed to be a straight line, than to any curve or anything, right? Like those dots do fall into a straight line. And if they do, more like, if you believe that those dots pretty much are in a straight line, then you have shown, you haven't shown that t is linear with m then, but you've shown that t is, if this is a straight line, that means t is directly proportional. If this is a straight line, that means that t is proportional to n, where n was the new name I just made up for square roots of m, right? Which means that t is directly proportional to the square root of m, which means that t is equal to some constant times m over 1/2. Times m to the 1/2. And now comes Veronica's question, and anybody, a great question. But if you're sort of following what I'm saying, and it kind of is a mouthful, but I'm saying that the minute you guess m to the 1/2, the way you find out if it's true is you then just make a new graph right away with m to the 1/2 values instead of m values. And if your new graph is indeed a straight line, that shows that your guess was correct. That's what's really important about this. Number one, that's why we're allowed to make these guesses. Because if this new thing falls into a straight line, then boom, that shows t is directly proportional to m to the 1/2. Directly proportional means equals to a constant times m to the 1/2. So now Veronica's question, or Veronica's point, how do we get the constant? Well, now it's easier, because now we have a straight line. So the constant that we're looking for, that constant that will go right here, is simply the slope of this line. We couldn't do, if this is delta y and this is delta x, or really in this case, delta t, and this up here is delta m, then wherever we measure, anywhere we measure here, rise over run, we're going to get a number. And then our final answer then is t equals whatever that number is, rise over run. And technically run is n to the 1/2. And we measure that slope, and this line really is straight. Then we have verified. Then we know that we were right, and we have an equation from this data. And please remember, the last thing, Tom, I'm going to say this. I mean, for the moment, I'm saying this is actually an interesting process, because what we're doing is we're admitting to ourselves that all we really ever do understand or like in science is y equals mx plus b. All of us just like straight lines where we can just freaking measure the slope and look at the y-intercept, which is often 0, 0, which is often 0. So as long as we have a straight line, we just got to measure slope, and we've got our equation and we're done. So what we're really secretly trying to say, it's not secret, what we're really trying to subtly say here is the general reality in science is you don't have a straight line. But what you do when you don't have a straight line is you guess what kind of curve it is, and then you test that curve by turning it into a straight line. And in so doing, you'll get the coefficient, the original constant that you're looking for. And this is called linearizing. There's one of this is called linearizing. Look at the constant you were looking for. The constant. I was just going to see something. You'll get the constant you were looking for. Well, so, we're about to be interrupted again, I think, and I'm not going to fight much harder on. I know this is. I can feel the interruption coming. Sorry. Or maybe not. Well.
Is anyone?
Okay, I am going to pause for a second. Actually,
Is anyone going to turn me a Mewtwo?
Okay, if anybody, okay, this is since we're almost done actually, and if anybody does even know what we're asking, if you, well, it's not the last chance, there's no, but if anybody does, I mean, I can't give extra credit or anything like that, but if anybody does have any thoughts about Pokemon Let's Go, and Mewtwo, right, they understand. You feel free to put in the private chat or something, and we'll work out something. I would love to know if anybody has
a Mewtwo, so I could
Yes.
trade it for my Moltres.
Right,
Or something better or worse.
Right. Okay, and we're just about done. They really totally hear it, and we're going to keep talking. They won't forget, and the offer will stand. And maybe we'll think of something. We will one day play video games in this class with you. And they're hearing me say that. One day we will.
And my name is I Want to Die.
That's not. You mean you want to?
Sorry.
You mean you want to tie dye your shirt purple? Okay, wait.
Bye, Dad.
Love you. Okay.
Love you.
Okay. iTunes. And I do mean it. At some point in this class, we will. Yeah, no, we will. You heard. I said on purpose. I will. I don't make promises that I can't. We will take. I mean, we already took a break to talk about video games for sure. We might as well actually. We will do something like that at some point. It will involve him. But seriously, if you know what he's talking about, if anybody does have a Mewtwo that they're interested at all in trading, we'll work something out that somehow it would be fun. I would love to do that if you know what he's. And you can put it in the chat or whatever, or send me a text. But and we'll come up with other things like that too. But also, if anybody can beat Walters at chess, that would be great. But okay, I believe that at this point. Yeah. Like what well, okay, well then you might be doing the whole class a service if that, look, and that's true with me too. I'm not saying that's hilarious. Okay. And believe me, I'm not good. Well, okay. Point taken. And again, all of these, please, everybody remember that even these like joking comments that people make, whatever, they all count as participation. I mean, if I can say that it counts as me teaching when I'm sitting here talking about video games for 15 minutes, then it counts as you learning if you participate in that. And I will stand by it. So remember, when you fill out your game things, these jokes and stuff do count. They make life better for the rest of us, and they make learning easier. And they make, yeah. So where I think we are right now, and I know we're wrapping up in a second. I know technically it ends at 7:10, but I didn't give you a break or anything, and this has been a lot in a way. Where I think we are at this point, like, so, okay, wait. So it's the larger summary of just procedures in general of what you were doing with Walters. Like, it's hard what you were doing with Walters. I mean, I obviously you saw I got confused today. It's not easy, but the larger thing that what you're really trying to do is get equations from variables, right? You always have one independent and one dependent. You're trying to put them together, take a bunch of data, and get an equation out of it. First, just realize that is new. Like, that's not what we're used to in science. But honestly, I think it's the realer deal. We're trying to get equations, not use them. That's just the first thing to. So if you find that like annoying or confusing, like, just at least understand you're not confused to be confused by that. But then number two, the real method that we're doing is it's a big focus on linearity. The focus is that we know how to manage, really, well, the larger lesson is in science, in physics, what we always try to do is take relationships that we do understand and impose them on the ones that we don't understand. We always try to figure out things we don't know by relating them back to things that we do know. So in the particular case of this, we right now, even though we're not going to have any new homework, we're going to continue with like the very last question. We're going to continue with homework 1 next week. But in our efforts to understand a spring, and it does take a lot of efforts and a lot of weeks, but just to understand elasticity, right now, at this point, you were focusing on the variables of mass and period. And you played enough around to find that the relationship between mass and period is a square root relationship. You did enough to verify that. And I agree with you. Mass is directly proportional to the square root of T. You even pushed farther, whether you realize this was going on or not, you pushed farther to start realizing, oh, if we believe that mass is directly proportional to the square root of T, and that is what you're saying. You're not saying mass is directly proportional. I'm sorry. What you're saying is T is directly proportional to the square root of M. You are not saying that T is directly proportional to M. You're saying that T is directly proportional to the square root of M. That's what you're saying. Then you're saying, aha, what that means is we are in a position. Oh, sorry. It means that we're in a position to find out the constant of proportionality. If anything is directly proportional to something else, it means it equals that something else times a constant. So then your effort was into figuring out what that constant was. You did a bunch of other things or other graphs and stuff to start to get at what that constant was. And this is how far you got, the whole class. You got as far as knowing that the constant itself, the constant of proportionality between T and the square root of M, that the constant, and here's the confusing part, you found out that the constant was somehow related to the square root of K, to 1 over the square root of K. That's what you found, and that is correct, and that took some work, and that is tricky. But now if we put together your findings, the thing I'm just trying to end on, hopefully to make it clear, I'm saying if you put together all that work you did, what you end up believing is, yes, T is proportional to the square root of M. And yes, T is proportional to 1 over the square root of K, which is another, but both of those are proportionalities. I agree with what you found, and it's totally important, and it tells you the relationship between these different variables. But just to be super clear, to end on what we know and what we don't know, what you ended with that motion is a proportionality. There's no equality there, because what we've never yet done is that last step that I was just showing you before. Like, what no one's done yet, I mean, because no one was asked to, is no one actually made a graph. No one actually did do this thing that I'm doing right here. I made a graph of T versus the square root of M's Because if we do, or when we do, whatever the slope of that graph is, will be, okay, I swear. I know I keep saying this, but I'm saying we know this. I agree with you. Like, this is true. We are saying this is true now because you have found it. That means the same thing as this. Now I'm saying that the number that goes, just to be clear, there's some number that goes here for all of your work. Right. Well, yes, I'm basically saying yes to, oh, no problem. No problem to Quasi. And what I'm saying, and no problem to Kat about video games. But what I'm saying to Veronica is like, yes. And this is where we're ending. Like, just to be super clear, you did do a bunch of work to find out constants. Like you had this. And so you knew that meant this, we were calling this A, and you found out correctly that A itself is directly proportional to 1 over K, which meant we could plug 1 over square root of K, which meant we could plug that in for A, and we did, and we are. But I just need to emphasize that that's still all direct proportionality. Like if we were to make that graph of square root of m's on the independent axis and t's all on the dependent axis, we can measure the slope of that graph, and that slope would be the number that we're looking for here. And that number would be something times 1 over square root of K, but it would be something times like this number. Well, sorry. Well, no, I'm just going to leave it like that. What I'm trying to say, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, is that number, which is some constant. Well, no, I'm just going to say this. We don't know that number yet. Nothing in everything that you did gets us to this point, but it gets us to a direct proportionality. It doesn't get, the way to know the exact equality is to actually linearize the graph and measure the slope, which we haven't done yet. I mean, I think I just want to end on, I know this is at 7:06. Okay. I want to, I know that was a lot of that was a lot of words to maybe say something that you kind of already knew. So I'm saying in sum, to get that number, whether it's the next step, whether you'll do it with him or you'll do it with me, or we'll talk about it, but to get the missing number to finish this. And again, so this equation, we're trying to get an equation that we can believe in because of data. Like we're trying to, like, this is an equation that we're almost done with. And of course you could look it up on the web, or you could look up in a book and it's like already a true equation, but where did the equation come from? From the process that we're trying to do. And what's missing in the equation is that number, the constant that goes right there on that blank line. How would we get it? We would do the thing I was saying before. You would map a bunch of m to the 1/2 values to t values. You get that straight line, and whatever the slope of that straight line is, that is the slope of that line would be the entire constant by which m to the 1/2 must be multiplied to get the straight line. In other words, the slope of that graph would be the number that we're looking for over square root of k, because we already determined that square root of k is part of this, right? So if you want the number, you would, the final thing is to get the number, you would literally do the slope of your graph multiplied by square root of k. That will be the number that will finish the whole equation, and that we'll talk about next week. I'm not saying you should do this before next week. I'm not saying you follow all this right now, but that's the context. I mean, I know it's 7:10. I know it's like later than early. So I apologize for any mess there. But again, there's not new homework besides the game thing. If you haven't done the old homework, please try to do the old homework. We're still going to go over the old homework next week. I'm good to go if you guys are good to go. So I'm just going to pause and see if there's any questions. Oh, cool. That's good, I think. Good. Yeah, and so maybe if what I've said here is redundant to some of you, then I hate to be boring, but I'd rather be boring than unclear. So hopefully at least this stuff is getting clear. Yeah, okay, cool. And I never know what that, and so 0.9, wait, but 0.9 is good or bad? Sorry, that's good, right? Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. I'll stop saying. Okay, fair enough. No, you're right. I should, whether I am or not, I shouldn't keep saying that. You're right. Fair enough. Fair enough. But I don't know what this. Hold on. What is the? Oh, okay. No, I appreciate it. I'm not fishing for. No, I totally do appreciate it. But I'm actually just focusing on your 0.9 thing here, because we. Okay. Oh! You literally got the number 0.9. Oh, great. Oh, thank you. I thought you meant a grade. I thought you meant like the grade multiplier with, okay. Good. That's great that you got 0.9. We'll pick up on that. Good. So you're following what I'm saying. You're clearly following what I'm saying. And I apologize for any apologies. No. I'm good. If you guys are good, then like, if you could just for a second unmute and just say goodbye or whatever, then I'm good. And I will totally post this, of course. I mean, I'll post the video and thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry to answer, but yes, you have a good week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor. Good night.
All right, thank you. Have a great week. I will post all this in the record. Thank you very much. See you in the Galar region. Bye. Thank you. Awesome, guys. Great job. Thank you. Thank you very much. Awesome. Thank you. Great. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you, Crystal. I appreciate it. And thank you. And who's that? And then thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Kameza. If you're good, are you good? Cool. Thank you. And Kameza, you're good? Or are you? Oh, good. Okay. Thank you, guys. Okay.